Hello, it's John Heaton, coming to you from Canizaro Park in Wimbledon again, and I'm going to continue my sequence of Badfinger album reviews by reviewing this album from 1973, their first Warner Brothers album. So they left Apple after after Ass, changed their management and tried it out with Warner Brothers. We were to record 2 albums with them before Pete Ham left us. So nice inserts, nice back cover with them on horseback, by the way. Tom, Pete, Joey, and Mike. There was some kind of copyright dispute, so they weren't allowed to. Sorry, on the previous album, on Ass, there was a copyright dispute, so they just credited all the songs to Badfinger. On here, they actually do tell you who is writing the tracks. So, for example, I Miss You is Pete, and Shine On is Pete and Tommy. This was the insert which came with it, which is very nice, kind of reminiscent of Beatles' Let It Be. Didn't come with every copy. I think I picked that up later. So this album, very different to Ass, which was actually unfortunately released roughly the same time. Certainly in the UK it was released even later than this album. But unfortunately in the US they came out more or less simultaneously, so they kind of killed each other off commercially, which is a shame. Ass is a very competent, heavy rock oriented album, and this is more acoustic in the style of say No Dice. Both of them have their merits. Probably prefer Ass slightly, but they were to go on to record what I feel is possibly their best album, or maybe best along with Straight Up, Wish You Were Here, later in 1974 in Caribou Ranch, also on Warner Brothers, and also produced by Chris Thomas. So this particular album, recorded at Olympic Studios, which I'm guessing is the Olympic Studios in Barnes in London. I could be wrong. Horns arranged by Jim Horn, produced by Chris Thomas. So he'd taken over the reins for Here and for Ass, and then later on Wish You Were Here, and then he would later work with Paul on Back to the Egg, having already worked with the Beatles on the White Album and the Sex Pistols and a few others. I should know, but I don't. So Chris Thomas behind the controls, and it starts off with what I must say is quite a kind of sentimental, probably too sentimental ballad from Pete, with nice piano and synthesizer and a softly sung vocal, nice melody, but it's a little bit meandering. It's could have done with maybe the middle 8 or some variation in it. It's quite pleasant, but it's an odd choice to open the album. And talking of odd choices, maybe I should mention now the first single from this album, which I picked up in this second-hand record shop in Warminster at the weekend, Love Is Easy, backed with Mike Gibbons' My Heart Goes Out. And it's a very strange choice for a single. I can think of at least 2 or 3 tracks which would have been made better singles. Joey was kind of dominating the group in terms of songwriting at this stage, having written, I think it's 5 out of 10 of the songs on Ass, and here we got 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks from Joey out of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4 out of 12, so actually it's only a third. Tommy has 2.5, Pete has 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. So maybe we're getting more back to the democratic division of songwriting, but one feels that Joey's songs are amongst the best on this album, and that Pete's songs are slightly lacking compared to his best. And I say that with all due respect to Pete Ham, because I love his stuff, and I even love some of the tracks he does on this album, but it's just the edge is not quite there, and he wasn't the best material he's come up with, and I'll come to that. So Shine On is probably one of Pete's best on this album, co-written with Tommy and sung nicely. And this could have been straight off No Dice. It's very reminiscent of Take My Spoon, Blood Win, that kind of style song. And a highlight of the album for sure. Love Is Easy comes next, which is a kind of chugging rocker from Joey, and as I say, inexplicably released as a single, sank without trace. It's just not a very distinguished song by Badfinger or by anyone. Joey's done a lot better than this, and it's just not inspired, and I really can't think why it was released as a single. But anyway, Song for a Lost Friend is if we're honest, a slightly substandard song from Pete Ham. It's okay, it's nothing disastrous or anything. Just doesn't hit home with the same melodic genius as some of his others do. Why Don't We Talk from Tommy? Nicely sung, quite moody. I like the steps walking along the pavement at the beginning, and quite a moody, gripping tune. But as a song, not one of Tom's best. And unfortunately, he was starting to write less material by this stage of Badfinger's career. And if this was the best you can come up with, then it was a bit sad. But he was to recover and produce King of the Load for Wish You Were Here, which is a brilliant song. Anyway, so that's Why Don't We Talk, and then the side one ends with Island, which is probably more in the style of Ass, kind of rocking, slow chugging rocker, which I like, but again, not a classic song. I'm sorry to be so negative here, which I realise I'm being, because I quite like this album. It's just that if you dissect the tracks, they're not amongst Badfinger's best for the most part, but we'll come to a few highlights coming up on side two. Side two opens with Matted Spam from Pete, which is a very nice use of horns and nice jazzy arrangement, spirited vocal. This is Pete Ham somewhere getting near his best, and a good opener to side two. Then we have Where Do We Go From Here, which I think is Tommy's best track on the album, with a nice use of kind of West Indian keyboard sound in the middle. I like this song. It's fairly lightweight. It's not saying anything particularly heavy, but it's a nice, pleasant song, inoffensive, as they say, and probably more than that, it's actually pretty damn enjoyable. I like it a lot. Then we get probably the three best tracks on the album. So we've got My Heart Goes Out from Mike, just proving that he can write songs along with his Badfinger colleagues up to the same standard, because on Wish You Were Here he'd do it effortlessly with In the Meantime, and You're So Fine, and on Ass he'd done it with Cowboy, and on here this is probably one of the best tracks on the album, superbly sung, just accompanied by, I assume, Pete and maybe Joey on acoustic guitars. Can't hear any bass on it, or not very obvious, and nicely sung. Gorgeous words, and For You Know My Heart Goes Out once again. Nice one, Mike. And then Lonely You. This is very close to a Pete Ham classic ballad, in the style of Midnight Caller, Apple of My Eye, Knocking Down Our Home, that kind of thing. You know, just great melody, and maybe it goes on a minute too long at the end, but that's pretty minor criticism, and good guitar solo, and just a lovely track. Quite sad, contemplative, but none the worse for that. And then we've got Give It Up, which is Joey Molland's finest moment on the album. A really spirited rocker with a nice slow verse which builds inexorably to the chorus. Give it up, give it up, and then just scorching guitar solos, which I assume are shared between Joey and Pete. So that's a real highlight of the album. Play this one loud, probably quite reminiscent of the Ass sound, heaviness wise, but a standout track on this album for sure. And then a strange closer to the album, Andy Norris, a rocker co-written with his wife Kathy, and all a bit pointless, really. I mean, it's not bad, and you don't skip it, and it's got some energy to it, but as a song, it's not much. And one feels that this album was a little bit thrown together in haste, which is ironic because they hadn't released an album since January '72, straight up, until they released this one and As, both the back end of '73. So I can't help feeling there was better material out there in the vaults, and if you listen to Pete Ham's outtakes and stuff, then that's proof that there was stronger material there, which never made to the studio for some reason. But anyway, this album is far from disastrous, and it's competent, and it's got some fine highlights showcasing the band's songwriting talents and melodic skills and all the rest of it. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.